Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is SewRena, and in today's video I'm going to be making a Western outfit, of course using vintage and vintage inspired patterns for a YouTube event that I had last week. So for this outfit I'm going to be using Gertie's Patsy Blouse, which I'll post over there. It's a PDF pattern and you can find it on her website at charmpatterns.com, I think it is. And then I'm also going to be using a true vintage simplicity pattern for the pant, and it is Simplicity 1818, and I'll also put the photo up there. I was so excited to make this outfit for this event. I've never been to a YouTube event, and the invites come out pretty short notice, so I had to work quickly, and I was super excited because I was going to be meeting up with my friend Drew. So if you're interested in seeing how this outfit turned out, go ahead and like and subscribe, and now let's get into the fabric. For the pant, I'll be using this glittery cotton in the turquoise color, and for the main part of the blouse I'll be using this mint green color, and I'll use the pant color for the yokes of the blouse. With just 3 days to complete this project, I had absolutely no business filming this, but I got really excited. I enjoyed all of the details, and I don't get to sew Western often, so it always feels like a treat to be able to document the work that I do when I do these, especially since I've progressed significantly between each of my Western projects. So I started with the pants because I was still undecided on what I was going to embroider on the yoke of the top. Plus I was using the extra from the pants for the yoke of the top, so I needed to make sure I got those out of the way so I could use the scrap later. The pant has a beautiful yoked pocket detail. I think that's what you call it. So stay stitched the top and make sure that you do a reinforcing stitch where you're going to have to clip the corners. And so that's what I did, and now I'm adding the facings, the pocket facings. I'm trying to be as precise as possible because I'm also going to do some top stitching, and the color of thread that I'm using for the top stitching is going to be mint green, like the main color of the blouse, because I want it to stand out on this fabric. So I do a lot of adjusting. Also, I know that when it comes to the embroidery part of this project, there's a good chance that I'm going to make some mistakes. So I try and make sure that the construction is as solid as possible, and that's where I know I can shine at least. Once I'm done with the front sections of the pants, then I move on to the back where I'll have some darts. And after the front section, it comes together like any other vintage pant, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. So let's talk a little bit about my fabric choice. So I am using a glittery quilting cotton, and whatever adhesive they use for the glitter kind of stiffens it up a bit. And originally I would not have chosen this fabric, but considering I had a time restraint, I tried to think with the time restraint in mind. Now, if I were making this and I wasn't in a hurry, I would go with something more like a cotton twill or a garbadine, something a little bit more heavy that will really hold the structure. And then I would add way more embroidery as well as lots of rhinestones. Both things I did not have time to do, so I figured to make up for the detail I wasn't going to have time to put in, it would be made up in the sparkly fabric. But then of course you'll have the downsides of using a thinner quilting cotton, which is going to be some wrinkling. In an effort to combat some of that wrinkling, I starched the fabric for the pant. I also noticed that in the pattern art the women were wearing flats, and I was going to Nashville, so I figured it was only correct if I wore some boots. So I actually lengthened the pants a little so that way I made sure that it tucked into my boots, but also the boots caused the pants to bunch a little, so it wrinkled a little bit more. So in the end, when I show this off, I won't be wearing boots, so that way you can see what the pant looks like when you're wearing like a shoe that doesn't come up over it. So yeah, it does look better without the boots in terms of the way that the pants lay, but for style wise, I think the boots really complete the look. So you take some and you lose some. I also want to note that I am pinking all of my seams to finish them because I just do not have time to rethread my serger. Also, I've already pre-washed this fabric on another colorway and it doesn't fray at all. So whatever that glitter adhesive is, it's really holding the piece together, so you can get away with just pinking this. Did I mention I was in a hurry? Because right after sewing up the side seams, I jumped right into the embroidery of the yokes because I finally decided what I wanted to do. I went with some poppies and some olive branches, and I'm going with a mint green colorway. Basically, I pulled all of the green embroidery thread that I had for machines and worked it into a design. As many of you know, I have not had a modern machine for very long, and so I do still kind of mess up on the embroidery parts, and usually I do test stitches before I work on my final product, but this took about an hour to do per like bunch of flowers, so I didn't have time to do a test stitch because that was very important time. So all of my flowers look completely different, and then I started running out of thread, so I had to substitute some colors, and so they're not even sisters at this point. All of the poppies are cousins, maybe. While the yolks are being embroidered, I start working on the darts on the blouse. So there's some darts in the back and darts in the front, and they're quite long, and I really love this detail. At this point in real time, I would have been sewing in the middle of the night, so maybe around 11, 12 o'clock, because I remember texting Drew saying like I still have all of this to do. Like I could see it coming together, but it still had quite a way to go and I was exhausted. So now it's time to start adding on the fringe trim. I went with white because that's all they had, and I knew I didn't have time or energy to decide what color to dye them. And even if I did know what color to dye it, I didn't have time to do all of that. So I am top stitching that on with the mint green, so that way you can really see the top stitching. The seam finishes for the blouse will be French seams because it's the blouse, and I feel like you're more likely to notice the seam finishes in it since it buttons all the way down. And I love a French seam, so even when rushing, I had to do those. I feel like Drew and I spent most of the day saying we can't wait to see each other, but also we wish we had one more day to finish our projects because, like, there's no such thing as a very simple Western look. I feel like it's all in the details when it comes to Western wear, and I feel like I'm a very detailed girl. It all is important to me, so yeah, I was like, if only we had one more day, I could do so much more. But I guess the thing with like any kind of creator events that you get invited to, we aren't like prioritized with regards to invitations. We're probably the last to get invitations. So yeah, we started working as soon as we got confirmation that we were allowed to go. Once the trim has been top stitched on, then go ahead and stay stitch around the entire yoke, so that way you can bring the yoke and the blouse pieces together as one, and you'll treat it as such from here on out. I have an entire video of how you can sew quickly, and one of the biggest things that I stress in that video is not to rush, because rushing makes you make mistakes, and then mistakes means you have to seam rip, so then you end up spending more time correcting a mistake than if you would have just taken your time in the first place and you would have gotten done sooner. I think with this piece, because I knew that there was no room for correcting mistakes, that I actually had to be comfortable with the idea that I was going to make mistakes and I would only be able to move on, kind of made it fun, because that's just never really the case with me anymore. I feel like when I do make mistakes, I know how to correct them, and if I don't know how to correct them, I know who to reach out to who can help me correct them or guide me through the process. So it's been a really long time where I've made a mistake or knew I was going to make a mistake, and I had every intention on just moving forward. So yeah, it was just really fun to just go for it. I should also add that sewing tired doesn't do you any kind of favors. Like, you're probably going to make the most mistakes if you're sewing tired. And so yeah, I was operating the embroidery machine, which I am very much a beginner at, very tired. Somehow I managed to set the machine to double over the work, so it doubled the time because it basically stitched the same thing twice. And I don't know how I did that. I don't know how it happened, and I was too tired to figure it out. I didn't even notice until it was already on its second rotation, and I was like, this is definitely feeling like this is taking longer than usual, but also I was hardly awake, so I didn't know if I was just tired or if I was just making things up. I don't know. Now it's time to attach the button plackets, and I had to piece together all of the interfacing in this because all I had was interfacing scrap, and once I realized it was already too late, all the stores were closed, I didn't have time to order anything, I didn't have time to go anywhere. So yeah, I'm just top stitching that placket on and then moving on to the collar, which is a stand collar attached to like a normal collar. I feel like this is typical on like a men's blouse as well as most Western tops, because I've done this before. Now we French seam the shoulder seams before adding the collar on, and I do top stitch everything on the mint green with mint green thread, so it blends in. So there's only contrasting top stitching on the turquoise. And now for some close-up shots of my perfectly imperfect Western outfit. I added a velvet little bow tie, which I did not have done in time for the event. I actually brought the supplies with me, but the moment that Drew and I saw each other, we kind of just were having too much fun to stop for me to make like a little bow. So I made this after the fact and styled it later on. This piece was such a joy to make. I am so glad that I didn't have enough time to overthink it. Projects like these will sit in my brain forever because I don't want to make the wrong decisions when it comes to color, fabric, embroidery, whatever, and then I just don't act on it. So I'm really glad I didn't have time for any of that and I just had to do. Thank you so much for watching this far. If you could, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a little comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. If you would like to support me any further, you can leave me a virtual tip over on Ko-fi or become a bobbin over on Patreon. I would absolutely love to have you over there. But of course, the best free way to support this channel is to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone you think might be interested. Thank you so much again for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!